Welcome to Subramani. I've done this video in the past. I'm going to tell you the gap between what I tell you what you should do and what I actually do. So I normally tell people you need only 3-4 funds. You don't require too many funds for all your goals. Having said that, I've invested in 12 schemes of one fund house, right? 12 schemes of one fund house because I thought that variety is required, whether it is some natural resources, whether it is gold fund. It's a gold fund which invests in gold and in gold manufacturing companies, and the gold manufacturing companies have a higher beta than gold. So when gold prices go up, this fund is supposed to go up more. World agriculture, natural resources, small cap, mid cap, of course, I've invested across 2-3 fund houses. I've put in money in healthcare fund, in pharma fund. I have some money in one infrastructure fund which is as of today giving me 30% return. Why have I done this? Because the fund manager has been recommended by somebody very good, right? And I've seen that person's performance now. For example, I met the CEO of a mutual fund long ago. We're talking of 10-15 years ago, and a new young boy was coming in. I'm not naming him, and his boss told me this guy is a good guy, it's worth investing in him. That time he already had a very famous fund manager. I don't think this was too long back also. I think it was just 2006, 2005, 2006, 18 years, 2005 must be. When the MD recommended and therefore I put money in his fund, and his fund has done well. In fact, they had two similar looking funds. I put money in both, and both have done well. I put in children fund for my daughter. That's again untouched. I could have removed it 4 years ago when she turned 18. I have not removed it, so it's still lying there. My wife's money is going into one pension plan for the last I think 22 years, as old as my daughter, right? So that much of some small amount is going, but it is going there, and it is uninterrupted SIP which has been going on. And as long I keep looking at the return, and as long as the return is more than the PPF return, I'm getting something like 9.5% return. I'm really very happy with that kind of a return in that fund, because it's a fund with about 35% in equity and 65% in debt. So here is my advice, saying you need only 3-4 funds, and here I have invested in I think broadly should be at least very close to 20 funds, or slightly under 20 funds, definitely not more than 20 funds, which is a big contradiction to what which I've been telling you. Secondly, even though I've invested in so many mutual funds, my total fund exposure itself is not very high. It is I don't think it is more than 10% or 12% of my, maybe even less than that, maybe about 6-7% of my total investments in equities. So it's a small portion, but it is spread across too many fund houses and too many schemes, but they're all doing well at various points in time. Sometimes when they're not doing well, I look at the portfolio and I say, oh, it will do well in the future. So like I was telling one fund manager, sometimes I like your result, sometimes I like your portfolio, which means I don't have to exit that fund ever. I do exit funds for non-performance. It is not that I have never exited. I also exit if the fund size is very small and have never committed more. I went in with the fund, put in 1 lakh, and then I didn't commit more money, and it stayed that, I mean, it became 1,20,000, 1,50,000, 1,80,000. It was not growing, and then I have redeemed. It is never that, not that I've never redeemed. I've also redeemed when I've heard bad news about a fund house. So those are the times, or their website sucks, and it's very difficult for me to deal with them. These are the reasons why I exit, not necessarily just bad performance, right? So what I do and what I say that you should do could be completely different. Don't ever copy my asset allocation. My asset allocation, I believe something very simple. 1 crore in gold, 1 crore in bonds, and all other money should be in equities. That suits me, right? It's not right or wrong for you. It is right for me, and I prefer it that way, because I know that apart from the money that is lying in debt and gold, which I can withdraw anytime, most of it is SGB. I know one thing, that my dividends take care of my day-to-day expenses, and I have current income which takes care of my day-to-day expenses. So I am never going to have to sell equity in distress. So to me, asset allocation, this is suitable. What suits you, you have to decide. There is nothing called the 70-30 rule. A 70-year-old should put 70% in debt and 30% in equity. I don't think Rakesh Jhunjhunwala had 60% of his money in debt and 40% in equity. No, it never happened that way, right? So the rules are there. I have made a video on thumb rules saying these are the thumb rules for you to understand how much of insurance you should have, how much money you should be saving, how much money you should be investing. But you should know how to tweak and do what is right and what is wrong for you at each stage. Third, I've been accused of very many times by my friends also is having too much cash. I like it that way because when you are on your own, the insecurity of running out of cash will never go away. It does not matter what is your net worth. I have a friend who's got a net worth of about 30 crores, and he says, when I put my card in the ATM machine to withdraw money and I hear the whirring sound of cash, that is the cash which I am sure I have. Right? So it does not matter what your balance sheet says, what anybody else says, but sometimes cash gives you comfort which you cannot put in mathematical terms and say, oh, but Subra, you should have only 2 lakhs cash. Why do you have 27 lakhs? Well, I have 27 lakhs cash. And for me, cash would normally mean money lying in my savings bank account. I'm too lazy to shift to a liquid fund and bring it back. But I have money in liquid funds. I have money in ultra short bond funds, which are there, which are doing SGP or just lying there. Right? So these things are there. It does happen. And I'm not getting into right, wrong. I'm saying what I am doing, and maybe you think it is wrong, right? So I have my PPF, which has been going on for a long time. I have my wife's PPF. I have my daughter's PPF, which they've hardly been stopped. They just keep going on, so automatic renewal. But I shut down my PPF few years back and started afresh. Right, so it is easier to shut down because it was in post office. Sorry, it was in State Bank of India. I've shifted it from State Bank of India to HDFC, and for myself, and ICICI Bank for my wife, because I can do it online. So that's the reason for shifting. No great logic, but that's the reason for shifting. I did not want, because SBI told me that even for withdrawal or closure, I have to go to the branch where I opened it. I thought it was too much of a pain, therefore I shifted, not because of any other reason. So another mistake which I have made, which I would never allow my friends or clients to make, is running a concentrated portfolio. I run an extremely concentrated portfolio, and I have picked up shares since the 1980s. So a group which I liked in 1986, I continue to like them because that time I liked, but now at least 1.5 generations have changed. How they are, what they think, I do not know. Yes, these companies are doing well, they're paying me good dividends, but I have no clue what is the current thinking of this management. I knew what was the thinking of the then management in 1986, maybe 1990, 95. Beyond that, I am not kept in touch. I am no longer a research analyst. I no longer manage funds, or I am a broker. So which means I don't have too much access to them. So occasionally from outside you hear that there are problems, but then the numbers don't show up. So sometimes I just continue. So I run a concentrated portfolio because I made money from a concentrated portfolio. What happens is you build a portfolio, and some share for which you paid 20,000 rupees is suddenly worth 2 crores. So the chances are you don't sell too much of it. Should you sell? Yes, you should sell. Should you reduce the concentration? Yes. Do I do it? Not always. There are times whenever if I've needed some money for something, which would always mean buying some other share, I've done a switch, but I'm not really sold to reduce the concentration risk on particular groups. Though I'm planning to do that, I have not really done enough of it, right? So some of these mistakes which I have made, I want you to know that these biases and all that impact everybody. So if you come and tell me that Grindwell Norton is a good company, I'll turn to you and say I already own Carborundum Universal. So that is, again, you know, this is bias. You know that I am getting more bias towards a company which I hold rather than a company which I do not hold, though both are equally good. Right? So you know these biases, you know what's happening, you built your portfolio, you're living on the dividend, you know that it'll take some 16 horses to pull my portfolio apart and reduce my dividend income. So a very important thing, I have a good risk taking ability, I have a good risk understanding. I have good risk taking ability, I have good risk understanding, I have good risk capacity, but the need to take risk is vanished, right? So I have always said that you are risk understanding, risk ability, risk need to take risk, everything has to, if you draw a Venn diagram, it is a intersection. So what am I doing? I'm committing the biggest mistake which I have said people do commit, is I keep running even though the race is over, right? So is it right, is it wrong? I'm not getting into it, I'm just telling you what I did. So whenever you look at my videos, you should do what I say, not what I do. So this is a good video for you to see and send to people and say, people who give gyan on so many things do make some of those mistakes in their own portfolios. They take more risk than is needed, they don't have a great asset allocation, they don't have any of those things. But you can also do that provided your dividend income is 2x or 3x your annual expenses. You know, whatever happens, and I also know that whatever happens, if I really screw up big time, my wife's portfolio is still there to feed me, right? So some of these things you do because you have reached the threshold level and you believe you cannot do, you can't, whatever mistakes you do, you cannot, your screw up can't be so bad. So based on all that is my portfolio. I make notes, I keep analyzing, I know what I'm doing, but still I get biased and I still find it very difficult to sell a share just because I feel that it is going to do even better. I still do sell maybe 100 shares. When you hold 30,000 shares and you sell 100 shares, it's a joke. So yes, many of these mistakes which I tell people not to make, which I ensure that my friends and clients don't make, but I make, right? Why do I do that? Because I don't discuss my portfolio enough with my advisor. Thank you.